And what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It is your boy Cheap Ludes, and I am back with part 2 of the 5-part tier list series covering the beginning of NBA 2K22 My Team. Today we're going to be doing shooting guards. Strap in. This is a very interesting position. I don't think it's the worst position in my team. I still think point guards are kind of the worst and most divisive position, period, in my team. But the shooting guard position is extremely even, I would say. There's not much separation in the pack is kind of what I'm getting at here, but we're going to be ranking all the best shooting guards in NBA 2K22 My Team. If you haven't watched the first video, the point guard tier list, go check that out. I dropped it yesterday. So let's get the parameters out of the way. S tier, unquestionable best cards in the game. Early on, usually you'll find guys who are complete. At the end of the year, it gets a little tougher to do S tier guys because everyone is more of a complete card because every card is basically 99. Everything at the beginning of the year, very easy to determine who the S tier guys are because they're the guys that are complete and they'll fit into any play style and do whatever you need them to do. A tier, just a shade under S tier. Maybe they have like one thing that they don't do so well that I'll talk about. That kind of keeps them from being a complete and utter monster. But they're still very good. Majority of the community would benefit from upgrading to one of those guys. B tier, that's where your everyday players are going to go. You know, guys you see a lot of teams in unlimited using, stuff like that. C tier, specialist guys, or they're just kind of meh, you know. D tier, these guys don't have many flaws or don't have many things that they're incredibly good at, but they're just mildly okay for the most part. In the right hand, some of them can be very useful. F tier, these are guys I think it's best that you upgrade from regardless what your playstyle is. I don't have trash tier yet because I don't think any card is trash tier at this point. At this point in the year, like every card can do specific things well. No cards are overly complete. That means that also no cards are like overly trash. Everybody has something that they can do well and in some way they can benefit you. But the F tier guys, for the most part, there's just people and cards who do a little bit better at the things that they do. So we'll get started with Adrian Dantley, who is perennially an F tier guy. Now, I will say this right off the bat. Like, Adrian Dantley is better this year than he was last year. Does that mean he's good? No, because of the things he does, which is play pretty substandard defense and attack the rim. There's guys that are A, cheaper, B, easier to get, and C, just overall better than him. So it's no shot on Adrian Dantley. I like Adrian Dantley as a player, and I kind of wish they'd give him a little bit more shine in 2K sometimes. It could be nice to have a better Adrian Dantley to use. If we had got like a diamond Adrian Dantley, like he might be pretty good. He might be like a slightly better Marquise Johnson, but a little bit smaller type beat, or a slightly better Daryl Griffith. But we haven't, and we just have the Ruby one, so here he is. Brian Winters. Look, he looks like the singer of like a 1970s, like, I shudder to even say the term hard rock band. But he looks kind of more like that, like groove. I don't want to say groove, like Chris Christopherson. Is that his name? Chris Christopherson? Yeah. Kind of Sticks kind of era. He looks like he is in that kind of band. You know what I mean? That being said, he's got a wet 3-ball, no gold badges, though. He's okay. Brian Winters is always pretty solid in the beginning of the year, and then they just never give us another Brian Winters card for the rest of the entire year. So if you're a Brian Winters fan, A, you're probably like 65, so I don't know how well you're playing 2K at this point, but shout out to you. This is your time to shine. Cade Cunningham. If he had better badges, he would be in B tier, but he's just about C tier at this point. Now, if you badger Cade Cunningham up, like I could see him being low to mid B tier, but like I've always said, I never rank cards based on their prospects after being badged up. That's just like not what I do. This is straight out of the box rankings. Any card at this stage in the game that you badge up to its fullest extent is going to be good and usable. So I'm trying to tell you how they are before you even get to that point, so you know what to expect right when you purchase or unlock a card. You know what I mean? Ruby Daryl Griffith. I would put him in D. He's just not that good of a shooter, and I can't really say there's much he does better than Cade Cunningham. That being said, Cade Cunningham is better than Brian Winters. I might even put him up in B tier for the current time. But like Ray Allen is objectively better than both these guys. He's a significantly better version of Brian Winters, and he's just better overall than Cade Cunningham. That's just me. He's a B tier shooting guard. You can argue he's A tier. He does have one of the best jump shots in the game. He's not outdated. He's only came out 3 weeks ago. I just think there's guys in A tier that are a little bit better overall than Ray Allen. Ray Allen's a great spot up shooter, and he can attack the rim a little bit and facilitate a little bit, but about as well as any card on this list is going to be able to do those two things. Terence Ross, I would put him in B tier for sure. I didn't include his non-signature version, but his non-signature version would go right here too. There's not really that much of a difference. The one thing I will say is if you're on current gen, he's going to miss more whites than your average card, but he does have a bigger green window. But it is objectively harder to green on current gen than it is on next gen anyway. So you're kind of losing a little bit of that. Terence Ross is still a beast though. He's 6'8", plays pretty good defense. He's fast. That player build is huge, and that's like a big reason that a lot of people use him. He's got a really easy to green jump shot. Granted, greening, like I said, is harder on current gen than it is on next gen. Terence Ross is still complete enough that he deserves to be in B tier. He's still good. James Harden. I don't think this card is very good. I mean, he's a sapphire that you get from the exchange for relatively cheap. You couldn't expect him to be too good. He's not terrible, but I would use Brian Winters and Cade Cunningham over him. Isaiah Rider is so good. Like, he is so good. And I'm so mad at myself because I sat there and tried to get my limited ring hard last night, and I should have just played the limited warm-up and just got Isaiah Rider last night because I've been watching him play, and he's just so nasty for an Emerald, and I'm like so upset. I really hope they give us an additional opportunity to get some of these reward cards, kind of like they did last year, because some of these are really overpowered. Like Dennis Smith Jr. and Isaiah Rider specifically are very overpowered. I know people love Corey Kispert a lot. Corey Kispert's just a downgraded Duncan Robinson, though, basically. So, you know what I mean? You're not missing out totally, but if we do have to use gold players, obviously it's going to be something that you're going to miss out on. Luka Doncic. I think he's B tier. He's fine. He's a little bit sluggish and slow. He's not the greatest defender. His jump shot's not great, but he's decent. I would put him in B. He's 6'7", plays the 2 guard. He shoots pretty well. Luka's pretty nasty. I just don't think he should be any higher than B tier. Anthony Simons. Now, look, if this was a point guard tier list, I know a lot of people have been requesting I put the players where they would naturally play and where the majority of the player base plays them in regards to when I do like tier lists and stuff like that. Here's my thing, though. That's like very difficult to do just because it's so subjective. Like most people will play Anthony Simons at point guard, but there are people who play him at shooting guard, so it's tough. And ranking him as a point guard, I would put him in B tier. Ranking him as a shooting guard, I would put him in C tier. He's decent, but I would use someone like a Terence Ross over Anthony Simons at the 2 guard position. Signature Dwayne Wade, A tier. If he had a better 3-pointer and could shoot a little bit better, I would put him in S, but he is A tier. Other than that 3-point shooting, he is near perfect at everything else. I wish his steal animations were a little bit better. He's got those steal animations where he kind of just slaps the ball around and nobody grabs it sometimes, which is really frustrating. But Dwayne Wade is lights out. He's just way too expensive. Sidney Moncrief. He's got some of the best steal animations in the game, and for that reason, I'll put him in C tier, but he's purely a defensive specialist. He can facilitate a little bit, but other than that, you're not really getting much from Sidney Moncrief. But I would probably use him over James Harden and Darrell Griffith if it came down to like a tournament situation. Evan Fournier. As much as I like Evan Fournier, I don't think he deserves to be in B tier. There's just guys that do what he does at a better clip. That's all I got to say about Evan Fournier. He's fine, though. He's got a pretty big player build. He doesn't have any gold badges, though, which is kind of a problem. I don't think that's the biggest deal in the world at this stage. Like, he's got kind of a wet jump shot, but he's just a little bit slow and not the greatest defender as well. And he has, like, the worst haircut for a man imaginable. And I speak that as somebody who has had this haircut many times. Dunktober Gary Harris. B tier, I would say. I might even promote him to A tier. I might. Like, it's possible. By the way, I'm just going to get this out of the way. Jason Richardson is A tier, no question. I'm almost considering putting this man into S tier. He is literally the most complete 2 guard, like, in this game almost. Aside from one other guy, he's probably the most complete 2 guard. Good size, good jump shot, plays good defense, has good animations, booms on everybody. There's not a thing this card can't do. He requires badge upgrades to get up to this S tier, which is why I'm like kind of iffy on him, but Jason Richardson is no joke. Dunktober Josh Giddey. I put him like behind Cade Cunningham right here. He's like a worse version of this Luka. He's not horrible. His jump shot's not terrible, but he only has like a 76.3, which is fine. You can green with that pretty easily, especially if you're on next gen. When you hear people talk about like, oh, it doesn't matter if a card has like a good 3-point rating because you can green consistently with them. Most of those people play on next gen. If you ever hear somebody saying that, that's a next gen player saying that. You know what I mean? On current gen, it is harder to green. That's just a fact that we cannot escape. Even the comp guys will say the same thing for the most part. But I'd probably put him in C tier. He's decent. Jerry Stackhouse. I actually like Stackhouse. He's a little bit sluggish for sure, but he's just a worse version of Jason Richardson. He's a Grant Hill clone. He's sluggish. He can play both the shooting guard and the small forward. And I think for that reason, I like him a lot. But I don't know what it is, but on current gen, he just feels so slow, dude. I'm sorry. Current gen's fine. It's next gen. He feels like so slow on next gen. I don't know what that's all about. He's got decent, like low 80 speed. I don't know what it is. Victor Oladipo. Oladipo is not bad. A lot of the current guys typically go in like C tier. Oladipo's not a terrible card. I mean, for what he does this year, he's not all that different from someone like Anthony Simons or Isaiah Rider. They're just better shooters than him. That's like basically the only difference. Ron Boone. Ron Boone's sick. Most people play him at point guard, and I would say at the point guard tier list, he'd probably still be B tier. If I'm being honest, yeah, he probably would. Like B tier is where he would be, somewhere around probably Slick Watts. So, yeah, I'll probably put him like right here. Ron Boone's pretty solid. He's better than Stackhouse and Luka, I think. Duncan Robinson. He plays absolutely no defense, but he is the best card in C tier for sure. He is a pure wet shooter. I love this card so much, but I'm not insane. I'm not going to throw this guy on the same tier as these B tier guys. Like, he is nowhere near as good as Gary Harris or Ray Allen, or even Terence Ross to a certain extent. Phil Chenier. He just doesn't do anything. Like, that's it. Phil Chenier's not terrible. He's just not very good. He's just not worth spending MT on. That's why I'm going to put him in F tier. I think even Adrian Dantley might be a little bit better. This Dwayne Wade I would also put in A tier. The lack of the one Hoff patch doesn't really do anything. The cards are the exact same card. They're very well. I would honestly put Jason Richardson ahead of Dwayne Wade. If we're being honest, I would. Andre Roberson, D. He was one of the best cards in the game for a little bit. Literally, when I say that, like a day and a half. He's still one of the better defensive cards in this game, but he brings you absolutely nothing else. Like Moncrief at least brings you like some solid dribbling, like a little bit of facilitating. You know, he could even shoot the midi and stuff a little bit. Roberson brings you none of that aside from pure defense and steals, which keeps him out of F tier for sure because he's better than Dantley and Phil Chenier, but D tier just makes sense for him. Gail Goodrich. Like, as much as I respect Gail Goodrich, and he's really small, but he can't play the point guard. I'll put him up here in C tier. If I got Moncrief and Oladipo up here, Gail Goodrich can at least stroke the ball. You know what I mean? Demar Derozan, B tier. Like, he's not shooting threes, and that's his issue. And unlike Dwayne Wade, he doesn't have a good enough three to crack them occasionally. Like, he's not going to hit very many threes at all. But everything else, he's fine. I wish he could play defense a little bit, and he cannot get quick first step for reasons I'm unsure of. Why 2K would give a card that can't shoot threes no quick first step as well and make it a diamond makes no sense. But, or at least you could at least be able to upgrade it, but you can't. So I'm going to put him at B tier for that reason. But he is lights out from mid-range. Like, he's a great mid-range creator. Jalen Green. I know people are going to be upset about this, but like, Jalen Green objectively is not as good as the guys in B tier. It's just not a thing. He is one of the best cards in C tier, if not the best card in C tier. I prefer Duncan Robinson personally because I'm more of a shooting player, but Jalen Green's still good. He's got a good jump shot. He dunks. It's just, he's a sapphire, and these guys are better than him. Cliff Hagan. I like Gail Goodrich. He's a wet shooter. That's it, though. He's a liability on defense. He's slow, but he can stroke. Like, look at this man. The peak, absolute pinnacle of what basketball looked like in like 1956 is Cliff Hagan. Daryl, Dr. Duncanstein Griffith. Yeah, B tier. He's solid. Like, overall, he does everything like pretty well. I wish he could shoot threes a little bit better, but he's still fine. Like, nothing's wrong with this guy. And he can dunk from like literally the free throw line. Like, if you're somebody who uses dunk timing, Daryl Griffith is stupid. Like, he's so stupid. Angelo Russell. Low B tier, I would say, yeah. No defense whatsoever, but he can get buckets. He's better than the guys in C tier. I'm not going to say he's the same. He is slightly better than those guys. Richie Gierin. Yeah, Richie Gierin's really good. I've yet to run into a Richie Gierin in the wild, but Richie Gierin's really solid. Pretty good jump shot. 6'4", a little small for the 2 guard, but it's fine. I mean, Derek Griffith is 6'3". Ron Boone mostly plays point guard, but he's around the same height as well. Richie Gierin's not bad, though. Especially for a free card, he's solid. I would put him in B tier. Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell is very good. I just wish he could play the point guard because he is 6'1", and that does become a problem. This year, it's not as big of a deal, but if you run into someone who's running a card with like mismatch expert, that's going to be a problem on the defensive end because he's going to abuse Donovan Mitchell, especially with the way they've nerfed paint defense. You can pretty much get contested layups in 75% of the time. Like running someone like Donovan Mitchell and them having like a Terence Ross, they're going to score on you like every time, or a Stackhouse, or a Jason Richardson, you know what I mean, or a DeMar DeRozan. Like any of those guys are going to bucket up Donovan Mitchell. Granted, he's going to be able to get steals. He's going to be able to flame on offense. He's still really good. I just really wish he could play a point guard. David Thompson. Oh, dude, David Thompson's really bad. Like, I just don't understand why they made a card that you have to play 300 and win 300 triple threat offline games for. Like, have not even one Hoff badge. Like, David Thompson is a way worse version of Daryl Griffith, basically. That's like what he is, which is a shame. They never do my man David Thompson, aka the Skywalker, correct. Ever. Jeff Malone. I would put him in D tier. Jeff Malone. All right, this dude, I don't know what they did to his CPU settings, but this guy, when you use him on your team, you're not going to see this. But when you play against this dude in the offline CPU on next gen, this guy is the most annoying 2-guard in the game. Him and Kevin Martin, dude. I don't know what they did to their settings or like what they tweaked in regards to those two specific base set players. But they play the toughest, most annoying defense, and you cannot get around these two guys. And they don't even have the badges to like support this. So I'm going to put him in D tier for that reason, but he's not very good. Dunktober Kobe. Dunktober Kobe is the most complete shooting guard in this game. I would be willing to say he's S tier, and I don't think that anybody else is. Jason Richardson is very close, but I think Jason Richardson is just a worse version of what this Kobe brings to your team. People are going to argue and say you can't get this badge, you can't get this badge. Well, it doesn't matter at the early stage. If a card is this complete, it's S tier, and that's the parameters set. Kobe is it. Is he worth 300K? No, absolutely not. Jerry Sloan, C tier. Jerry Sloan's actually pretty good. I use him in draft a bunch of, that's pretty much the only time I've exclusively used him, and he's actually really solid. Also, he has snatch blocks, again, for some reason. I don't know why 2K keeps doing this. They just give Jerry Sloan snatch blocks, which is hilarious. Watching this, 6'4" white man just snatch block a 7-footer is so nice. Jim Paxson. Jim Paxson is not good at all. I would put him in C tier. He is not worth I think he's an exchange, or is he a token reward? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. He's really not that good. They always do my man Drip God Jim Paxson like this too. Mitch Richmond. I don't quite think Mitch Richmond is S tier, but I'm thinking about it. You can give him Chef, which is, if you give him Chef, he's S tier. Which you should absolutely give him Chef. In the right hands, he's definitely S tier. Should I put him in? I'm going to keep him in A for now. Mitch Richmond, he's got base 22. Yeah, he's got base 22 too. Mitch Richmond is so good. He's just... Things I will say about Mitch Richmond is he is not the greatest defender. He only has a 75 driving dunk. I think Kobe objectively is better than him at everything. But I can also say that I think Mitch Richmond might be better than all three of the guys in A tier. You know what? No. Kobe is so much leaps and bounds better than Mitch Richmond. I don't care. A tier. Junior Bridgeman. I would put him in C tier. This card's actually not too bad. He just can't get a bunch of badges that are pretty important. But he's probably the best card in C tier. I'm actually going to put David Thompson right in front of Anthony Simons. He's like a slightly better version of him at the 2-guard. Kent Bazemore, I love this card, but he's F tier. I would use all these D tier guys over him. No, Kent Bazemore's not that much different than Andre Roberson, realistically. We're talking about overall and fit. All right, here's Kevin Martin. I hate this card. I hate him. Not because he's not good. He's got a wet jump shot. He plays really nice defense. I mean, he's a up here in C tier. This Kevin Martin card, very good. But like the CPU controlled Kevin Martin plays defense, the likes of which you will never see from any other. I swear, if you run into him in TTO, or not TTO, but TT offline, this dude will clamp up anybody you have. Like if you have Diamond Kobe and they put Kevin Martin on him for whatever reason, he will clamp up Kobe. It doesn't make any sense. He contests every shot. You cannot get past this dude. Infuriating. LaMelo Ball. B tier. LaMelo Ball still good. 6'7", 2 guard, pretty easy to time jump shot, decent badge count. There's nothing really wrong with him. I mean, I don't really need to overly explain LaMelo Ball. Most of you guys watching this probably have had this card or have this card currently. Lu Dort. Controversial one. I don't even care. Lu Dort is so good. Lu Dort is incredible. He lacks some ball handling, but that is about it. Like shooting badges. He literally gets more steals than any shooting guard in the game. He plays lights out defense. Yeah, he's only 6'3", but so is Daryl Griffith. I don't care. Dunktober Lu Dort is so good. Before the Evo, he's significantly better than Gary Harris. Gary Harris just gets that bump because of that Evo. Like, that's it. Bradley Beal. Once again, another 6'3" guy enters the chat right now. Bradley Beal's so good. He's one of the best pure shooters in the entire game. No question. I personally prefer him over Ray Allen, but Ray Allen is that little bit bigger and plays defense a little bit better. So I'm going to put Bradley Beal right here. I like Bradley Beal a lot. He also booms on people. Don't sleep on that. Colossal Manu. He's a good offensive player, but that's about it. I would put him like right here. Mo Peterson. He's really all he does is shoot. And that's what Mo Peterson did. I mean, he plays a little bit of defense, but he's nowhere near the level of like a Kevin Martin or anything of that nature. So I would put him in like D tier for that. Richard Hamilton. I'm actually tempted to throw Richard Hamilton in B tier. Like, this card is actually really good. If you upgrade some of his badges, he's instantaneously B tier. Out of the box as a base set guy, I would keep him at the low B tier. Like, Richard Hamilton's really good in the early game always, and that hasn't changed this year. Marquise Johnson. Yeah, I would put him by like DeMar DeRozan. Marquise Johnson is definitely B tier for sure. I would actually put Richard Hamilton above D'Angelo Russell too. Like I would do that. I might even drop D'Lo. Marquise Johnson is great. Like he can shoot a little bit too. He's got a pretty decent jump shot. He's 6'7". Like there's nothing wrong with this card at all. Michael Cooper, dog. Michael Cooper is crazy good. He plays lockdown defense. He's like better Lu Dort, basically. He's Lu Dort, but he's a little bit taller, a little bit better. Well, the jump shot I think is kind of a wash. I like Lu Dort's jump shot. It's just really fast. Michael Cooper is nasty though. He's so good. Most people still use Michael Cooper for a reason. Otis Birdsong. I mean, Birdsong's okay. I would put him like C tier. He's not worth the exchange, but he's all right. Paul Westphal. I know people love this card, but I can't say he's that much different than like Ruby Manu. Like if we're being honest, probably like C tier. Ricky Pierce. Excellent defender, but he doesn't really bring you anything else. So for that reason, I'd probably throw him by like Cliff Hagan and Brian Winters because he's like the polar opposite of those guys, but same kind of thief. Sam Jones. I love Sam Jones. I don't care. As the final card, he goes in B tier. Sam Jones is so good. It doesn't matter. So as always, it's been your boy Cheap Ludes. Let me know what you think down in the comments, as you always do, or in the live chat. I haven't decided if this is going to be a premiere or not. I'll think on it. Either way, let me know what you would have changed, what you like, what you don't like. I mean, you guys already do that, but it is what it is. It's always harder to do the rankings this early in the year because no pure meta or like universal meta has been essentially discovered and used universally of which to rank cards, but I don't typically factor that in anyway. I like to give props to guys other guys don't give props to. So let me know where you would have had a certain card, if you would have been lower or higher, etc. And stay tuned for small forward, power forward, and center. Peace out, you guys. Have a good day.